I want to begin with a couple of brief readings about endings. The first is from a Native American elder, Olson. It's entitled, "You Were Never the Water." Nothing is lost. The universe form, substance assumed. And these from the writings of Mary Oliver. To live in this world, you must be able to do three things: to love what is mortal, to hold it against your bones, knowing your own life depends upon it, and when the time comes to let it go, to let it go. Our task today is that of saying goodbye or letting go. I must say goodbye and let go of you and this place, and you must say goodbye and let go of me. Now, I've been reading about this process of saying goodbye and letting go. One writer, a consultant for an organization which works with churches and their issues, says that every person, every individual, has a style or a modus operandi, he calls it, in the process of saying goodbye. Perhaps it is unknown to us or unrecognized by us, but we use it each time we say goodbye. Our personal style of leave-taking clicks into action in as simple a setting as finishing our conversation with somebody we ran into at the produce counter at the supermarket. It clicks into action when we say farewell to visiting friends or relatives as they leave to go home. It will click into action for each of us today as we say our goodbyes to one another. And our purpose at that final time we say good when we come to die. Our personal style of leave-taking may not be recognized by us, maybe not. Maybe one we have inherited or learned from family patterns, or one we've adopted in response to such early learnings. Unless we intentionally. My wife Trick told me that when she was little, family goodbyes were excruciatingly long and maudlin. Everybody hugged everybody else, and they all cried and moaned about how wonderful the visit had been and how soon they'd come back and how much everybody would miss everybody and so on and so forth. Tripp said she hated this so much, she intentionally adopted another style. Her own style, just taking part at all. If it was one of the ones leaving, she just went and got in the car. If others were leaving her house, she went upstairs. Went upstairs to her room and closed the door. "I hate goodbyes," she used to say. Over the years, she has softened on this somewhat, but that very early developed pattern of saying goodbye is still with her. For example, I asked her if she wanted to come with me today for this service, and she said, "No, I don't want to. I don't like saying goodbye." So she's not here. I tell about this to illustrate the proposition that each of us has a style of leave-taking or saying goodbye. It comes into action whenever we are parting from another person with whom we've had some interaction or relationship. Whatever your style of leave-taking may be, may it serve you well. In as simple an interaction as the one at the produce counter in the supermarket, in the goodbyes we say to one another here today, and in that final goodbye which each of us will one day utter when the time comes for us to die. In my reflections upon leave-taking and saying goodbye, I have found poetry and religious texts full of words of wisdom. The poets and prophets have their ways of seeing life as we know it is, but we can't quite get the words around it to say it. When we hear their words, we see ourselves, and we know how wise they are and how much they can help us understand our own times of passage in this life. Elder Olson wrote these words which jumped off the page and spoke to me. You were never the water, only a wave. Not substance, but a form, substance assumed. Now we might think of the ministry of this congregation, UUBRidge, as the water, the substance. Or we might think of the benevolence which is at the heart of the universe, at the heart of creation, the plan of the universe. Maybe that's the water or the substance. When I think of it that way, then I can imagine myself as a wave, one of many waves, perhaps tall and attention-getting for a brief time. The wave has no substance of its own, but is simply made up of the water, and will soon enough, after it crashes on the shore, be replaced by another wave, which also has no substance of its own, but is made up of the underlying water. Mary Oliver gives brief but sound advice about leaving the sheltered port and calm waters. She writes, "To live in this world, you must be able to do three things: to love what is mortal, to hold it against your bones, knowing your own life depends upon it, and when the time comes to let it go, to let it go." And so the time has come for us to let it go. Perhaps the most useful spiritual teaching for us all upon an occasion like this is the teaching of the Buddha. He taught us that everything in life is changing and impermanent. Nothing lasts forever. He taught of the suffering we experience in this life, that sense of incompleteness and unsatisfied longing, which he called dukkha. Dukkha. Suffering comes about because we have attached ourselves. Relief from that suffering can be found through detachment, from no longer counting upon or basing our happiness and satisfaction in life upon things which ultimately are going to prove impermanent. And so we have to let go. This is really the main teaching of the Buddha and the faith tradition which he established. Often at times of transition, we can ease our discomfort by remembering that others have gone past, and still others will come and go in the future. Over the years of its existence, just think about UUBRidge. Over its years of existence, some people have left this congregation by death. Some have simply moved on to the next stage of life, wherever it may be for them, and whatever their reason for moving from this place. And so they have taken the hopes and ideals and concerns and issues and values and principles which we share together in this place, added them to their own skills and energy and the memory of the friendship and love which they enjoyed here, and they've taken all that to a new place where they will plant it and let it grow. A number of times, some people have said to me, "Well, I hope you'll come to church when you can, even though you won't be the minister any longer." But that's really not a good idea for me to do that. Let me talk about why. Once you have been a minister in a congregation, it's very difficult, maybe even impossible, to be present and not be a minister. That's the role I know and feel comfortable with here. You think of me as a minister, and you might call on me, without meaning to do so, to do the tasks of ministry which you're accustomed to seeing me do. But soon enough, you will be taking a new direction with the ministry of UUBRidge. You need to give your attention and support to that new direction, whatever it may turn out to be, and I need to get out of the way so you can do it. I need to apply this logic to my other duties in the community as well. As you know, I'm fairly active here in Rappahannock County. I've already finished my term on the board of the Rappahannock Benevolent Fund. I continue on the Grants Committee of the Benevolent Fund, but I will resign from that effective August 31. I'm going for a last lunch with the Rappahannock Clergy Association one day early next month, and then I will no longer be part of that organization. And you know what? They even told me they'd buy my lunch that day. At the two churches that I served in the past as their settled minister, one was in Barnstable, Massachusetts, and the other one was in Schenectady, New York. At those two churches, I told them that as I was leaving, that I was going to do them a great favor. I was going to move out of town. That way, nobody could expect me to do their father's memorial service or their daughter's wedding. They would need to turn to their new minister. Of course, I don't even live in town here, so it's going to be easy for me to disappear. I'm a member of our professional organization of ministers, the Unitarian Universalist Ministers Association. The UUMA, we call it the UUMA, the UUMA's guidelines for departing ministers offers this advice. 1. In general, the future well-being of a congregation is best assured by the fully effective leadership of a minister whose service to that institution has ended. 2. Congregations are especially vulnerable in periods of ministerial transition. Therefore, departing ministers should exercise particular care to minimize their influence and presence within the congregation and their interactions with members and staff during times of transition. That's good advice from the UU Ministers Association, the UUMA. Thinking back on my time here, often on Sunday morning, I early to get ready for the service, just as I did this morning. When I come in, the place is already all spiffed up. The chairs are all spread out. The altar and the candles are all ready. Gary is getting the music ready, and the coffee urn is bubbling. And I just sit down somewhere out there in the middle of the room. If you come early, you've seen me do that. I sit down in the middle of the room, and this thought washes over me. What a great place. How blessed I am to be able to be here to do work with you. And now that is ending. I keep telling myself, you were never the water, only a wave. And all of us must remember that when the time comes to let go, we must let go, all of us. This is that time for all of us. It's been great to be here, but now it is time to leave. Shalom.